my love of but also just the love of service and being of service to the community. The Beacon program is nestled in what we have on our Lower East Side. We have a community school called the East Side Community School. The Beacon program is if you could just go back to the slide before that, Dave, sorry. Yeah, we're staying on this one for a moment. The Beacon program is a community center within a school. So it's a unique program where we have an internal component which we serve the school that we're nested in, but we also have an external mandate to service the community around it, which is it has its own unique challenges and benefits. And one of the benefits is we're able to leverage being in the school to assist the community, and we're also able to leverage our community partnerships and the resources we get from the community to assist and shore up the school. So it's a really great partnership when it works flawlessly. If very rarely works flawlessly, but that's the challenge of it and being in part of the fun of it. Honestly, the school itself is a school that really reflects the community. The demographics of the school, as you see on the screen, it's largely a Hispanic and Latinx population, 57%, followed by white students, Black students, Asian students. 25%, a full quarter of the population are students with disabilities, which makes it a unique school in the area. Also, our program reflects pretty much is a subset of that population. Our program services close to 500 students, which those numbers are down a bit from the pandemic, but they are rebounding. We service 63% of the middle school population and 25% of the high school population. But again, being a community center within the school, we also open up our program and our space to other programs and other individuals outside of the school. So we have adults that go all the way up from 18 to 75. We have programs for them that they come in and they come into our space. I think it's also really important to note that a full 85% of our participants receive some type of funding from the government. And through that funding, which we are funded by the Department of Youth and Community Development, we're able to take that funding and further support these the people that need and receive government funding. We're an additional resource for that. We can go to the next slide. So, one back.
1 second.
No worries. So the program itself, the activities that we bring to the community, we service both as I said, we service both the internal school that we're nested in, and we also have programs for the outside of our community. Activities that we offer on a regular basis, pretty much almost daily, are our sports program. We have a really robust sports program: soccer, flag football, running, skateboarding, basketball, volleyball. We also have art programs that speak to the creative side, arts, knitting, arts and craft, digital art, photography. And then we also have foundational services, which we build up the participants through homework help, tutoring, internships, opportunities to be a part of the leadership of not only the school, the program, and then also the community. Then we also do community events. We have community events, like if you see here, during our summertime, we had a couple of cookouts that were designed for our summer program. Then it was housed in our summer program, but we also opened it up to the community, to anyone that wanted to come by that day and use the space. And we had carnivals, and we had arts and craft tables and cotton candy. So we look to service, again, not just the internal community of the school, but also the outside community. We can go to the next slide.
And Dakim, I just want to add quickly that all of our programming and services are completely free of charge in our Beacon program.
That's exactly what my next point was going to be. Thank you for leading me in, Greg. Yeah, we definitely offer all of this at no cost to the participants. And that's participants being either inside the school or outside the school. If you sign up through our program and you are, say, part of our knitting circle, which meets twice a week and every Saturday, we provide the yarn for free. We provide the needles for free, the knitting needles for free. It's really about making our space someplace that is a safe space and an affordable space for everyone. We have a collaborative approach to designing for all of our activities. All of our activities, we offer voice and choice to our participants, meaning they have a voice in what they want to take. We don't set the agenda for them or their schedule. We allow them 2 or 3 times throughout the year to choose which activities. And then the activities themselves, they have input in which activities that we will design for them and present to them. And we do this by doing surveys both internally in the school, with the school. And then we also have external surveys that we work with. We have a community needs assessment that's done both through our agency and through our funding agency, the Department of Youth and Community Development. And then basically our partnership really works where we supply resources to in the form of funding, money. We provide food to the students, to the community. We provide uniforms to the sports kids. We supply books, school supplies, any type of necessary equipment that is needed to operate any one of our programs inside the school or out. We also supply, our partnership also includes people power. Our staff routinely helps with this throughout the school day. We have social workers that come in and can push through the day if need be, if that's what's required to meet with a participant. Our staff goes on field trips, goes on extended trips, and really is just really embedded in a part of the ecosystem of both the school and the community. We can go to the next slide. So best practices that we've kind of discovered and what we've kind of settled on really is just 3 main tenets of best practices. Communication is always key with both the school leadership, agents, and community partners. Our communication with the school is structured in the sense that we have a formalized process for meeting with the school, but it's also organic. The school principal reaches out to me routinely, email, text, calls, has me come into his office. If I see him in a hallway, we'll talk about what needs to happen, and that's across the board with school leadership throughout the entire school. There's a joint leadership aspect, which, the Beacon program, myself, my team is invited to be a part of leadership committees, the safety committee, the building response team, the school leadership team. We've been part of PTA. We go to the community board meetings that happen in local precincts, police precincts, that speak to things that are happening in the entire community block, and we step up whenever we can to be a part of that. We have an advisory board. The Beacon has an advisory board and a youth council that's made up of both teachers, school leadership, parents, youth participants, and other adult participants, as well as we've had in the past, we've had local business owners, we've had local law enforcement, and we've had a presence from political personnel. So it's really a collaborative approach. And then it's just a shared vision. The Beacon program and all of the DYCD organizations really are founded on positive youth development. which basically boils down to creating an atmosphere and a safe space where our young people can develop into positive members of the society, and they'll be the future leaders. So the shared vision here is that the school itself, the community itself, and the Beacon program that we run really are all on the same page on trying to create the next generation of leaders. And then my next slide. This partnership, as Greg has mentioned, spanning back 22, 23 years, we've really had a lot of outcomes. We've been instrumental in transforming the community space. The picture in the slide is a soccer pitch, a mini soccer pitch, which we were instrumental in transforming that space and providing it not just to the Beacon program, not to just the school, but it is a public space that is open to the public and you use quite often. There's a playground, a basketball court, volleyball court that's definitely used as well by the school and by the community surrounding it. We've supported our families before the COVID-19 pandemic with cultural events, food, college prep. During the pandemic, we supported the school and the families and the community with essentials and necessities. We transferred into virtual and provided really ongoing contiguous education. And we've just really supported thousands of people in the Lower East Side, for generations. We've had multiple generations come through our school, come through our program, and it's really something that I am very, very proud to be a part of this journey. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Anthony Santos, who is the director of the community school.
Awesome. Thank you, Dakim. So yes, my name is Anthony Santos. I have my master's in education and school counseling. And I'm the community school director at PSMS 34. So I'm also a New York City native, born and raised in Queens, went to schools in Manhattan. And I've actually been a participant of university settlement summer camps from when I was 5 years old. It was my first job when I was 14, working at the summer camps. So that really inspired me to follow my path in college with psychology as well as with school counseling. When we created the after school program at PSMS 34 in 2014, I was one of the first staff members hired and quickly became the program director, which I ran for close to 6 years. We actually in 2021, I led the process to create a community school at PSMS 34. But in my work in the after school program, I was very proud to run all sorts of amazing after school activities for students. I also completed my goal before I left of hiring a student as a group leader, someone who used to go to this school, because my goal was to kind of, turn it back around. Just when I was a student going to these programs and got my first job at University Settlement, I wanted to do the same thing for one of our participants. So I was very proud to do that before I left. And, there's actually 2 right now working at our after school program who are old participants who are doing amazing. So if we could get to the next slide. So what is a community school? That's something that I had to learn. When we first found out about it, our principal actually asked immediately if I can be the community school director and University Settlement can be the community school CBO lead partner. I had no idea what this meant, but I was like, yes, let's do it. So it was a lot of learning. So just a very brief definition. So a community school is a partnership between the school staff, families, youth, and the community to raise student achievement by ensuring that children are physically, emotionally, and socially prepared to learn. So what does that look like? So community schools support the whole child. So this is in school and out of school. We're there to provide resources for the students, whether it's academic, whether it is physical health, whether it is emotional health, whether it's social skills inside and outside the school through university settlement programs and our community partners. We also support the child's family. So we are there to support the family with the same things we're supporting the student with. So if a parent comes to us asking they need support with, they're having some housing issues, they're having issues paying rent, they're having issues, they need some support to go back to school. We are there to support them. So we become sort of a hub of where we are in our community. We're also supporting learning both inside and outside of the classroom, and I'll touch on that a little bit more later on. So we also notice that healthy students attend more days of school. So part of the things that we provide is we partner with outside organizations to bring in vision care and free glasses. So we had a vision screening for every single student in the school that myself and my team led the initiative. We created the schedules, we supported the event that day. So every single student got their vision tested. This past week, students received their glasses. So we have tons of kids walking around with brand new glasses. Sometimes some of these students are receiving their first pair of glasses. So we're very excited about that, as well as medical care and dental care. So you'll see these two pictures. We have two of our students, 4th grade and a 2nd grader, and they're super excited to receive dental care. So they came in, we had dentists come into the school and treat every single student. Any student who had, maybe a little bit more of a severe case of some dental issues, they made a referral to an outside dentist. We go to the next slide. So who does PSMS 34 serve? So our demographics, we serve 53% Hispanic students, 42% Black students, 3% Asian, 2% white. We serve 34% students with disabilities. Our free or reduced price lunch is at 95% of students. We have 6% English language learners. And we have a 3K program. So we have a bunch of adorable 3-year-olds. So we have 10 seats for 3K and 6 seats for pre-K. I'll be honest, and I'm pretty sure there's more kids in those classes than we have seats, and that's totally okay. The more kids, the better. We go to the next slide. Awesome. So some of the programs that University Settlement directly provides in PSMS 34 is we have a full-time social worker that we hired. So myself and Greg both did tons of interviews to find the right person. The person that we had who started back in September has been amazing. So she is there to support both the school day and the after school day. So she is there to do, she has a caseload of students that she works with every single day. We have a referral process, and she is there part of the team every single day, meeting with school counselors, meeting with parents, meeting with students, meeting with teachers. We also have 5 success mentors. So a success mentor is a staff member who works directly with a specific grade, specific class, and they're there to support SEL activities, and they're also there to support academics. So some of them will, in the morning, they'll support students with academics, and in the second half of the day, when we notice, after recess, maybe that's when some small issues arise, that staff member is there to pull out students in small groups to work with them, to do SEL based activities, and to whatever the needs of the student and the teacher are. So our success mentors meet with the teachers at least once a month with myself and my team to do a team meeting, but it's very, they'll meet with them every day just to check in. We also have Yes, thank you, Greg. So SEL activities are social emotional learning. We also have a mental health clinic in the school, as well as our Families Thriving program. So I believe Barbara is on this as well. You can see Barbara in the picture. Families Thriving provides individual and family therapy, crisis prevention and intervention, skill building, and positive parenting program. So Families Thriving not only supports the students, but families as well. So they'll meet with families, they'll do visits at home, they'll do visits in the school. They've been an amazing resource, especially during the pandemic, where Barbara and her team led tons of meetings with the school staff as well to see how they're feeling, as well as parents. And we also have 2 after-school programs. We have one that's embedded in the school and one that elementary students will walk to with a dedicated staff member about 2 blocks away. Next slide, please. Awesome. I think there's one before this. There we go. So a few of the things that we've done so far. Student self-governance. So we've actually created our first PSMS 34 student council. So we do it every single Wednesday. Next Wednesday, they're actually doing their first presentation to our principal and assistant principal. The students want lockers. So I think we're going to get them super excited about this. We are there to just sit back, support the students with tech needs and, sort of like guide them. But this is all of the students. This is what they want in the school, what's going to make the school better for them. We also support with financial and resource assistance for children and families. Last year, we were lucky enough to be able to use some of our money to pay for our prom, senior dues for students, which includes their cap and gown, class rings, graduation, and all food for every single event we did at the end of the year last year, which is a huge relief for families because these costs add up. So if we're able to cover all of this, we had trips, we had so many events that families were super excited to be part of. That was pretty amazing. We also have created care packages for families during the pandemic. We also, in terms of our resource assistance, we also create a community school forum. So this is a place where school staff, parents, and students can all meet together to discuss how we can make the school community better. We've also organized and led our Nordstrom Shoes That Fit sneaker giveaway and a Nordstrom coat drive, where every student got a free pair of sneakers and a free coat. In terms of our mental health supports, so we have a mental health fair that we do, and now we are doing it during our annual University Settlement Carnival. We also have a referral system for our mental health services for Families Thriving, for a mental health clinic, and as well as for my direct team, so our social worker and my success mentors. We also collaborate with our school counselors for workshops and projects throughout the day and support students one-on-one with our success mentors. In terms of academic support, we've created a robust student library in the school, and we also support academics with our success mentors pushing into the class, being a resource for the teachers as well. In terms of attendance, so we actually this week are doing our winter attendance awards. So myself and my team, University Settlement, is leading our attendance incentive committee. So basically what we do is we reward students for coming to school, for perfect attendance, for increased attendance, and we also give out movie ticket packages for students who are achieving a really high level of attendance. It's really amazing. Last time we gave out over 200 awards. And we took pictures. Parents are invited, teachers are invited, to make sure that we're celebrating parents as well, especially the parents who bring in their elementary kids who can't walk on their own. And we've also given out over $10,000 worth of books to students for attendance-based awards last year. For conflict resolution, so we've helped create and implement restorative consequences for students. And we've also created a de-escalation space for students to cool down before returning to the classroom. That's sort of where we've built our team area, so students can come in at any point to talk with any single person that they need to. We go to the next slide. So some of our best practices, so we also have a shared vision with leadership. We work on them with our school goals. We get student feedback and insight. So we do have surveys that we give to students and parents to get their insight of what they want in the school, as well as our community school forum that everybody is invited to. We have a direct partnership with teachers. So we meet with teachers one-on-one. I talk to teachers every single day. We're part of every email chain. We're also part of every single team meeting that you could possibly think of. I'm part of our Sunshine Committee, which is to bring happiness into the school and fun. We're part of our building response team, safety team, attendance team, every team, which is pretty amazing. It's awesome to be part of everything in the school. We also work on our relationship building across the community. So we are actively trying to get other partners, because it doesn't just have to be university settlement programs. Ideally, that's what we have, but we bring in more programs into the school to support. We also build amazing relationships with our parents. So we work with the PTA very well. We're part of our PTA meetings. We're part of our family engagement mornings. So our social worker actually leads yoga as well for the families. We also consistent communication. I work with the principal and assistant principal and the school counselors very, very closely. We talk every single day. We also have our meetings that we have once a week, but just generally we meet just about every single day, just to go over what's going on in the school, the temperature of the school. Do we see maybe something's going to happen later on in the school day? Is it a really good day? We have these very, very consistent meetings. And we also make sure that everybody in school knows how to provide a referral for early childcare, for mental health, for eviction prevention, and services for older adults. So we've done an amazing job, and we're super excited to continue our work at PSMS 34. And I'm going to pass it over to Greg so he can introduce Daryl.
Thank you, Anthony and Dakim, so much. So now I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Darryl Rattray, who's the Deputy Commissioner of Strategic Partnerships at New York City's Department of Youth and Community Development. I've had the pleasure of working with Darryl since I started at the Beacon. So Darryl, I'm turning it over to you now.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Darryl Rattray, Deputy Commissioner of Strategic Partnerships here at DYCD, Department of Youth and Community Development. I've been with the agency for over 21 years. So that's right, Greg. I've known you since that entire time, which is amazing. Born and raised in the Bronx, which is actually named after a Swede, Jonas Bronk, who was here in the 17th century, immigrated to New Netherlands here in the Americas. But want to give you a history of the Beacon program and how the city actually started the Beacon program model here in New York City. So when I give this history, I always start with a quote from one of the architects of the Beacon model, Richard Murphy. who was the commissioner for youth services back then. He was the architect along with Mayor David Dinkins. So the quote from Richard Murphy is, "The idea was to create dozens of small universes in which young people could learn, dream, and grow, and in the process, stay out of trouble. The goal of these programs is to establish safe havens for the community residents, youngsters and adults to avail themselves of social services, recreation, education, or vocational activities." So, that quote for me has always spoken to the value and the power and the strength of Beacon programs. So Beacon started in New York City in 1991 as an initiative of then Mayor David Dinkins as part of his Safe Streets, Safe City anti-crime initiative. To give you a sense of the state of the city back then, our current average number of murders, a little bleak here, but our current average number of murders for the past 10 years has been under 400 murders, about 400, a little under 400. In 1991, when Beacons were created, we were at 2,250 murders for that year. So that gives you a sense of the heightened crime that was happening in New York City. One tidbit about the creation of Beacons, the funding for the first set of Beacons was actually supported by the decision of the administration not to purchase a second prison barge. So we purchased one prison barge, they were gonna buy a second one. They decided not to purchase that prison barge, and that funding would then be funneled over to nonprofits to support the Beacon programs once they started. So during the planning stages, so now the city's trying to figure out what are we going to create to help respond to the crime that was happening throughout the city and the needs that were occurring. So it was a full court press by the administration. They brought together youth serving city agencies, community-based organizations, nonprofits, and advocates to explore and develop a new community-based after-school initiative. It led to 3 goals. They wanted to create a model for school-based community centers serving children, youth, and adults. They wanted to build a grassroots constituency to support the initiative. And they wanted to identify locations within the 10 precincts of the city's highest crime. The Beacon model was then developed around 3 principles that were universally regarded as fundamental. So the Beacon model included: youth require a safe, positive environment to occupy themselves outside of school and home. Schools are empty after school hours and can be utilized on behalf of the community. And there was a need for greater community involvement and empowerment. So Richard Murphy, who was a youth services commissioner at the time, had to figure out how do we modify city systems to better support the nonprofits in the efforts of rolling out the Beacon programs. So we had to look at the way we contracted and the way we allow budgets to happen to ensure that they conform to this new Beacon model that we were rolling out. We had to ensure that there was startup funding, and that we also went out as a city agency to support the nonprofits in the endeavor of launching and lifting the Beacon program. And most importantly, we ensured that there was technical assistance for program design, outreach, and operation, that we weren't just giving nonprofits funding to go out and do what they had to do without the support of the city. We started in 1991 with 10 Beacon programs across the city. By 1992, we doubled to 20. 93, we're at 37. 96, we're at 41. By 98 through 99, we were at 80 Beacon locations throughout the city. The model was so successful that by 1995, it actually started to get replicated. The first replication city was actually San Francisco, and then Minneapolis. Eventually, there were Beacon programs in Denver, Tampa, Philadelphia, and even 8 in the US Virgin Islands. One time I was on vacation, St. Thomas, and I visited with the executive director of the Beacon programs there, and I had an interesting conversation. So the Beacon model became a successful crime intervention, prevention, but more importantly, an overall community development, youth development strategy. I want to call out 4 of the core best practices that I think are really important when we talk about the Beacon model. That school building that we've opened as a community center remains an open community model, regardless of which schools the students come from. That Beacon program, although there's a school in that building, they recruit young people who live in the community who may attend other schools. That location also continues to provide adult programming. And the adult programming that is occurring is a reflection of the needs of that neighborhood and what's happening within that neighborhood. Another core best practice for Beacons is a co-location strategy that promotes community building. That nonprofit that we funded to operate within that Beacon program is reaching out to local organizations to bring them and bring that expertise into that building, give them space for free of charge, and allow them to cultivate a larger presence within that community and build sort of a coalition for that community. Also important to the Beacon model of best practice is ladders of leadership. So as you heard from Anthony attended University Settlement Summer Camp programs when he was younger. You would hear a lot of stories over the years of people who are running Beacon programs, running organizations who started as a participant in the Beacon. That's also my story. I started as a teen participant in the Beacon program when I was younger. But that Beacon programs develop and cultivate community residents to be leaders within that community and also throughout that Beacon program. And then lastly, the core best practices is that the Beacon stays responsive to community issues and needs. Each Beacon has a framework, but they tailor that framework to that specific community. What's happening? What's the current events going on? What are the needs of that community that they're being responsive to? And that also the Beacon isn't just in that building, that staff are going out and representing on other community advisory boards, community boards, to represent sort of that larger neighborhood. And I mentioned the ladders for leadership of the Beacon. I would say the fifth core best practice is, of course, youth leadership and youth empowerment. Ensuring that young people have a voice in the design of the program, and also have the opportunity to take part of leadership opportunities throughout their community that is designed and tailored by the Beacon program along with those young people. So I'm looking forward to any questions you may have on the Beacon model and how the city got started.
Thank you so much, Daryl. We're going to turn it over now to Talina Marcusson, who is the development manager from All Activity House in Malmö, Sweden.
Is it possible for me to share my screen? Because I have a more fun PowerPoint with some pictures of the children as well, if that's fine.
Yeah, I think Dave should be able to give you access.
Perfect.
I made you the host, so yeah, here we go.
Yeah, okay. So hopefully y'all can see this. Okay. So my name is Talina from All Activity House in Sweden, Malmö. So the first All Activity House started in 2011 as a project in one of the areas in Malmö. And the idea was created from the circumstances in the area, which were a high feeling of insecurity, both in the schools and within the local area. There were few local meeting places, and also a lack of official, voluntary, and local associations. So as part of the existing community work, the organization has from start relied on cooperation from the educational department, other departments within the city, housing owners, housing company, local businesses, and of course, the local society. And the organization has a basis on the democratic values. So the local citizen, and when I say citizen, I mean it in a broader term as the people living in the area. So the local citizens are participants to a high degree. So it's the local citizen that decides which activities that are started and what they contain. And they have the opportunity to either start their own activity or join an already existing activity. So the project in 2011, the positive effects from that were that you could see that there was a raise in the grades within the schools, and there was also a high feeling of security. So in 2013, we won an award from a children's rights organization, and the nomination was as follows. The organization has contributed to those children that had challenges in school. They have gotten the opportunity to grow, very much because of the opportunities for their own voices to be heard and acknowledged. So what started as a project became a permanent organization. And with this and with the positive effects also came a political decision to open more of the all activity houses. So in 2013, the second house opened, and in 2018, the third house. And now this year, we opened the fourth house in the area which I'm located in. And what you also can see is that these effects have spread. So nowadays, it's very common that schools want an all activity house because they can see the great benefits. And of course, that is very beneficial for us as our joint forces with the schools. So some key facts that we're funded by the government, and we are part of the city's cultural department, where we have an assignment where we're located in socially economically disadvantaged neighborhoods. And in these areas, child poverty is high, and so are unemployment rates. And we are developed for and with the local citizen, together with the community. We provide for the whole community. We have participants in all ages, and cooperation is a necessity. So with the local residents, local businesses, different housing owners, and so on. And so when we start one of these organizations, we go out in the local area and ask what is needed or what activities they want. And we usually start in the classrooms in the schools. So we were out in one of the classrooms and we asked, okay, what do you wish for? Which activities would you like? What is your wish? And one boy raised his hand and said, can I wish for anything? And of course, we wanted to encourage him to share his wish. But I thought, well, if he wished for a trip to the moon, that will obviously be hard for us to fix. But we still encouraged him. And the boy said that he wished for a winter jacket for his father because he didn't have one. And even if that's not something that we can provide in most cases, that experience puts our work in a larger context where children don't have the possibility to be children. And this is one of the aspects of how we can provide greater opportunities. And the basis is a democratic principle, which means that we only start what is asked for or needed. And there's a high level of inclusion and participation. So we do this together with the local community. Our activities are always free of charge, and that can include transportation or food if necessary. Activities are offered every day, even weekends, for different ages. So we have for children, for adults, for the youth, for families, and we only start what is requested. Activities are held by employees, by the local residents, or by volunteers. And we are located in the schools. So being located in the schools means that we reach the children during the day. And through the children, we reach their parents, their guardians, and through them, we reach the local community. And it also, of course, makes the Department of Education a natural partner. And it also provides a good foundation for our relationship with the guardians. Because we're located in the school is seen as a safe place. and the parents or the guardians feel safe in letting us take care of the kids. I mean, the kids are the most valuable they have. So that's the safety aspect is a huge thing here. So activities are our main tool to build relationships, of course. And even though activities are our main tool, it's the effects that are the main focus, of course. So through activities, we build relationships. We have a close dialogue with the local community. We work with the whole family, and we also add on to what the school already does. For example, we encourage a higher parental involvement. Many schools have a big problem with parents not attending meetings. And when we asked the parents why they weren't attending the meetings in the school, they answered that they couldn't because they didn't have anyone to take care of their children. And in that way, we can assist the schools. So we provide some kind of daycare at the same time when the meeting is, so that the parents can go to the meeting and we can take care of the children. So together, we build a better community, we work together with the school. And of course, the democratic values, our participants are an essential part of the organization structure, and they are part of most of all of our decisions. For example, children are involved when we hire new staff. They have a great possibility to affect, plan, and evaluate their activities. And we kind of add on to what they learn in school, the democratic values, the human rights aspects. We give them the opportunity to use this to practice what they already learned in school. And of course, we spread knowledge concerning human rights in the same way. And we inspire the children to try new things and to dare to dream. So even though we only start what is asked for, one can only ask for the things that you already know. So one of our roles is to inspire, to open doors, to build bridges, to show what else you can do in the society, in the city, and to provide new opportunities. And through that, through gaining experience and trying new things together, it strengthens both the individual, the group, and also the community, which we see leads to social inclusion. And in this picture, we have a breakfast serving. So every day starts with a free breakfast. And the breakfast is free for students, for parents, but also for the school staff. And that gives a specific opportunity for the teachers, for example, to meet their students in a different setting. They're not in the classroom. They can talk about totally different things and build a different relationship. And that's something that the school really sees as a positive effect of us being in the schools. And because we're located in the schools, we're with the children throughout the day. We have different activities during the children's breaks. And then after the children finish school, our activities start. So from the schools or the children's timetable, we make our activity schedule. So the thought is that you don't go home after being in school, you stay in school, you get a snack, you have your activity, and often it's some kind of physical activity. So after a long day in school, after an activity, hopefully you're a bit tired, so that you stay, once you come home, you stay at home instead of going out one more time. So we are here throughout the day as extra adults, and to provide for the children and also make sure that every child is seen. So together with the school, we work to make sure to make a good environment for the children. And of course, this is a great benefit for the school. And it enables teachers to focus on teaching, and we can focus on everything else that happens during a day. Because during one day, it happens so much in a children's life. So of course, that is a great benefit for the school. And in this picture, we see some girls. They've had some kind of physical activity. But what you also can see is that they're not wearing any sports clothes and no shoes. And that is part of our thought in making activities possible for anyone and everyone to join. So you don't need anything to join. You just come as you are and everyone is welcome. And that also makes it easier to try something new if there's no requirements to any activities. And this trying something new strengthens the individual and of course also the groups. So our vision is to try new things and to rather fail than to never try something new. And we both, as I said, build bridges, open doors for participants to experience new things. And we see it as it's our responsibility to create opportunities and to show the citizen what is out there. Because in many cases, some of the issues that are the reason for citizens not going out their local community is, for example, it could be that you don't know how to use the public bus. And we help in giving new experiences. Most of the times we do things the first time together as a support, and then it feels more safe to try something by yourself. And here we have a quote from an activity leader. So some of the kids that don't work very well in school function the best in our groups. And this is because our groups are based on voluntary participation and you have the possibility to impact. So there's a place for everyone and the participants don't simply participate, but they create. So together the group set the rules. And of course, when you set the rules yourself, it's much harder to break the rules. And the participants decide what's important to the specific group, and this leads to an ownership. And we can see many of these positive effects even during the classes in school. So for example, a group that has an activity together, it changes the structure that is in the classroom, and many of the individuals that might be a bit shy gain confidence. And that's the feedback that we get from teachers, that it results in them taking more place in the classroom and also getting better grades. So it definitely affects the group dynamic. And students often say that we make school a positive place. So a group of girls used to come to me on Mondays, and they used to say that they longed for Friday. And I thought to myself, yeah, of course you can long for the weekend. I guess that's totally normal. But then they said it so many times. So then I asked them, okay, is there something special happening on the weekends? And they said, no, we long for Friday because we have our activity on Friday. And that's the best ending to the week. So it's not about what we do. It's about the relations that are created. And then in this picture, you see a girl that is holding an award that is called Friend of the Week. And it's actually just a piece of paper that is laminated. So it's not a big thing, but it's also a big thing because it's an award that we hand out to one person in each group. And it focuses on the positive and creates a clear vision, even for the younger children, what they should aim for. And the award gives us a possibility to have structured conversations about a behavior that is wanted. And it's something that the child they get it, they can hold it. Some of the children have it around their neck for days, some put it up in the room, and it's a really big thing. And when we hand out this award, we also call the guardians. So we at least three different children per week, every activity leader calls and tells the guardian this positive thing that the child has done. And the first time you make one of these calls, it's very special because many times the guardian thinks that you have the wrong number or they're super surprised. And in some cases, they just think that it's totally wrong because when you call, you introduce yourself, of course, but also the name of the school because we're located in the schools. And directly they think it's something negative because the schools often call the parents when something bad has happened. But here we switch it up. We do the exact opposite. And that is often the start of a great relationship with the parents. So that is a great tool that we use to get to know the parents, get to know guardians, and to build that relationship with the families. And besides that, of course, one of our key concepts is the trust. And trust could be that we give youth group keys to the school. And at least in Sweden, that is very unusual and something that is sometimes a big discussion with the schools. But here we see that we trust these individuals and the school has to trust us. And with the trust and with the ownership, we rarely see any negative results. We just see how the individuals grow and how the youth really grows and does their best and wants to achieve more. We also have a rights-based approach. So in Sweden, children's rights is law. So because of that, children are highly involved in different processes, and we work a lot with children's rights so that they get the knowledge because of the great difference of having a right and knowing how to use your rights. And also we build relationships with the local community, of course. And we work with a clear solution focus where we focus on the positive things, the things that work. So cooperation with the school, one of the main things that we can see is the benefits of being more adults, that we together work for the children's environment. And being more adults only results in positive things. And many times we might have different approaches to the same goal. And that is something that we discuss a lot, that often the goal is the children, the community, to strive to provide even better. But we have to understand that we have different approaches and that is fine. And an understanding of what the school staff does and what an activity leader does. And that we as an all activity house are adding on to what is already existing in the local society, in the schools, and not competing. And to do so, it's necessary to have a close dialogue and also structure for clear communication when these different approaches occur so that you can come together and see the common goal. And of course, the great positive effects make more schools want an all activity house, of course. And the positive effects that we can see are higher grades, a higher feeling of security, a better school environment, and also higher involvement, that more children eat breakfast because we offer it for free. More children are active during the day because we have activities during their breaks, and that we provide different structures for social inclusion that we see hopefully lead to an active citizenship. And that the democratic values that they already learn in school are strengthened. So some good examples or best practice are that children are included when new staff is hired. So children take part in reading different CV and also take part when we're interviewing so that they have a say in who is hired. Because that children's right is law here in Sweden, children have the right to be heard in matters that they are affected of, and which staff that is hired is something that they are highly affected of. So of course they should take part in choosing the staff. We have activities for nearby kindergartens, and there we can see that, at least in Sweden, it is like this. So you can, in some matters, you can choose which school your child should go to. And in some of these areas, you can see that they don't have that many kindergartens applying for the school. But when we have activities for the kindergartens and the parents, the children get to know the school, we can see that statistically more children apply for the school. And of course, that benefits the school. And all these positive results also have led to opening of a 5th house in 2024. And now we have many schools that want an all activity house, which also makes the communication and cooperation much easier. We also work to strengthen youth groups and their opportunities to political involvement and to structure themselves and to form their own activities. One example is that we've had it's an idea from the youth groups that we've invited the politicians to the area in their civil clothing, and then the youth could ask questions directly to the politicians. So that's a way to strengthen the groups, to give them more knowledge and also tools, and give them opportunities to involve themselves in the political space. And of course, I could go on and on and on with this, but this is what I have to share for this time. And of course, many of the things could be presentations of their own. So thank you very much.
Talina, that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Before we go into our Q&A session, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Staffan Lindqvist. He's the Executive Director of the International Federation of Settlement Houses. So Staffan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And thanks so much for these exceptional presentations that have been seen. And it has been so interesting to see the parallels of the work and approach in Malmö and in the US. But I'm taking the opportunity to make some marketing. You know, maybe you don't know, but IFS is the International Federation of Settlements and Neighborhood Houses. We have members in local and national members in 33 countries in all continents except Antarctica. That is just a matter of time. But we also organize biannual global conferences on different themes. And this year it is hosted by the French Federation in connection with 100 years anniversary of their organization. And it will be in Lille, not so far from Paris, in May 12th to 14th. And that will be, as always, days full of international networking, workshops, seminars, and of course, a lot of fun. The theme for this global conference is democracy and social justice. So it will start the 12th and it will end the 14th. But for international guests, we have a little earlier start already the 11th with like a reception for all the international guests. It will be a big conference with around 3,500 participants, most of course from France, but there will also be, of course, members from different parts of the world. One important thing is that you should really consider to register for this event, and you should do it by the end of this month, the 31st of January, to get an early bird price and also to get accommodation to a good price. I would like to, I will put a link to more information and registration in the chat. So feel very welcome, and it would be wonderful to meet you in Lille in May. Thank you very much.
Apologies, I was muted. Thank you so much, Staffan. So now we're going to open it up to our Q&A section. If you would like to have a question, you can use the raise hand function. You can put it in the chat, or you can just jump right in. I would like to ask my colleagues, Dakim and Anthony, if you could kind of help me monitor the hand raising in the chat for any questions. So we're going to open the floor up. Oh,
Awesome.
So I see a hand raised from Junius. Whoever I'm saying the name correctly.
Yes, actually, most people do not say it correctly, but I'm Junior Skaninda from the IFS office. I'm in charge of communication. And I'm just really happy to be here and to see a whole lot of you. Yesterday was the International Day of Education, and I was actually asking Staffan, did you know that this was gonna happen in almost like the same time? Because this is really supporting the IFS work and showing how the IFS is involved in a kind of diversified ways of education. So I'm just really happy to be here and see all of you. At the beginning, I was worried that this webinar is now being recorded, but it is recorded, and I don't know how it's going to happen, but if we could put it on our YouTube channel and put the link somewhere on the IFS website, that would be really good, with your permission, of course. And if we could have a few materials that you shared here, that also could be really nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm pretty sure that it won't be a problem to share the Zoom webinar with you to post on the website.
Thank you.
And I see a hand raised from our CEO, Melissa Ase. Hi, Melissa.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry for the noise here. I'm in Grand Central Station. Hello from New York. I loved seeing the parallels between both the New York and the Swedish stories. And I'm just curious if each of the three presenters would say maybe what the biggest challenge is right now. Just choose one, but I know that this is really hard work. And we presented all the amazing things, but I think we should be, able to talk about the hard things too. So try to choose one.
I would like to start on that question. For the specific challenge that I face, well, there's a number, but the one is the building that we are nestled in, the East Side Community School. It's an old building. It's been there. I think it's almost 100 years, if not already 100 years old. So we find that we are competing with space a lot. Again, internally, we serve the school itself. So the school has, they feel like they have priority for the gym space, the recreational space. And then we kind of have to scramble around that. And it usually is not that big of an issue. But on days when when it's bad weather, when it's raining, when it's really cold outside, and we have to have all of our activities inside, it then becomes a scramble. I should also note that this building itself is split. There are two schools. There's a charter school that takes up half the space, and we have to navigate and negotiate with them as well for spacing issues. So that is really, I would say, one of my, if not my biggest challenge with running a smooth and continuous program, is just battling the constant space issues.
Yeah, I could also jump in. I think my biggest challenge right now is positive parent engagement. We do get a lot of parent engagement in our school, but unfortunately, a lot of the times the parents of our students grew up in the neighborhood, went to the school as well, and they have their own sort of drama between each other, which influences the students. Because when your mom doesn't like this student's mom, and then you get into some sort of altercation, the parents sometimes unfortunately influence that. So a big challenge is having to speak with parents as well about how to support their students in a positive way, because it sometimes does impact the school day. So that's a very big challenge. We're very heavily working on that and trying to make more opportunities for parents to get along with each other as well as students too.
And I would say that one of the things that we struggle with is that we would need a larger budget. So we have the opportunity in one way to reach a lot of people in the local community, but we cannot go out in the way we would have wished for. We cannot go out and say that they can wish for anything, because we only have limited resources, of course, to offer certain activities, and sometimes certain groups are more prioritized than others. So with a larger budget, of course, we would be able to do much more. Is it fine if I also answer the question coming up in the chat?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Okay, let me just read it. So children taking part in when we're hiring staff, that is something that we started last year, and now it's part of our policy when hiring. So the different hiring processes have been a bit different. So the children's involvement have been a bit different, because in some cases we've had more time, and when we have more time, the children are involved from the beginning. So in the hiring processes where we had more time, the children have read CV. We talked a lot about which questions you need to ask, what is important, and why it's important. So then they've been part of the whole process. In some hiring processes where we had a little less time, they've only been with us during the interviews. But at the same time, that is what we think is the most important. So the children get to ask questions directly, and that gives us a unique opportunity to see how the person where we want to hire, if they have the same understanding of children's rights and the same approach to children that we have. And that is a unique opportunity. And we also see children's competence as something we need to include, just like we need to include HR. We need the children's voice, because I can give my perception of what children want, but the children tell me what they want in a very direct way. So it's been a great process, really.
Thank you. Dakim, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I actually would like to take advantage of having Daryl here and just ask him. I mean, we've heard a lot about the past and how Beacon came to be. Is there anything that you could share about what you think the future of what Beacons may look like going forward?
Kim, thank you. That's a great question. You know, in 2016, we actually expanded Beacons by 12 additional locations across the city. I think coming out of the pandemic and looking at the vision of the new administration, Mayor Eric Adams, our new Commissioner Keith Howard, we're looking at how can we better support neighborhoods by building those coalitions that I spoke about. In my opinion, Beacons, the Beacon model is central to that. Our community centers also including cornerstones that are public housing center-based community centers. But the potential to expand in school buildings, create holistic community centers that respond to the needs of the community, provide services for all ages. For me, that's at the center of the rebuilding, quote unquote, that we need to do post-pandemic. So as we start to roll out that strategy, building these neighborhood coalitions, bringing all providers that we fund and nonprofits that we don't fund together to talk about how can we better partner to better support neighborhoods, I think is the strategy going forward. So that Kim, I'm putting out there that I'm hoping for an expansion of Beacons.
Thank you. We're hoping so too.
An expansion of funding as well.
Somehow I knew that was coming.
That's my team.
I think, Staffan, is your hand?
Yes, I would like to hear a little more, especially from New York, about the impacts and the evidence for it from these community schools. That would be good also for us to, when we are advocating for the community schools here in Sweden. We have, of course, the all activity houses, but it's always good to have some evidence for the good impact. So do you have?
Yeah, I could jump in, Greg. So I think with our community school program, the one that I lead at PSMS 34, I think we're still very new. So we started officially in March of 2022. That's when we received our budget. But what we've been doing in my team is taking tons of data. So whenever we meet with students, writing down what we met with, doing process recordings as well. So we've been really able to track that data. My goal is when we renew this budget, we're able to look at the impact we've made to see what sort of academic impact we've made. When we do our surveys with students, when we do our, we call them Hello Insights. So when we check our students, how they feel about themselves, the program, each other, we could use that data and see what has increased, what has also decreased to figure out what we need to do as a program to be better. A lot of this data is still in the works because we haven't had a full year just yet. We don't have like a set example of data, but that's something by the end of this year we should have that we can look forward to and see how we could expand programs and what we need to modify.
So go ahead.
Go ahead, Greg.
No, I was just going to say, just to add on a little bit about the evaluation tool that we use called Hello Insight. So our young people do a pre-survey in the fall semester, and then we do a post-survey in the spring, and it measures the impact that the programs have had on the social emotional growth of our participants. And I can definitely, Staffan, I have some data that from our last year's reports that I'd love to share with you that shows like the major impact that we've made in our programming. And I can also share you the link to SEL, to Hello Insight. It's really been an amazing tool that we've used.
Great, thanks.
And I would just like to add in that our program's been operating a bit longer than Anthony's program. So while he's kind of in the startup phase, we're in the phase of trying to kind of reimagine what we've been doing and updating our processes. And the data tool that Greg mentioned and Anthony mentioned, Hello Insights, has been a really good step in the right direction with collecting hard data. But I would also say that I'm very much in the vein of what the activity houses are doing, where they say they have the teachers meet with the students outside of the classroom. I'm very much believe in meeting with our programmer, with our participants, our community partners, outside of the regular program constraints, and really just finding out, what they need and hearing from them. And really, it's really just about helping to shore up the young people to make better decisions so that they can be themselves and they can really kind of fulfill, whatever role they want to. One thing that we've done this year that I specifically kind of spearheaded is we've reimagined our a role in our program called the outreach coordinator. The outreach coordinator was someone that the role is designed to really just kind of be someone to reach out to the families. But we've also decided that that person really needs to be integral in all of the communications of the school, the families, the community partners, and that person then becomes really the kind of the go-between between all of the things that the program needs to do. So I think having someone in that role and actively in that role it's been something that is really launching us into different ways of serving other community.
Thank you, Dakim. And just a time note, it's 9:25, so I just wanted to put that out there. So we probably have time for about one more question before we wrap it up. Any last questions, thoughts, comments? All right. Well, I just want to take this opportunity to thank everyone so much for joining us. A huge shout out to Daryl, Talina, Anthony, Dakim, and Staffan. I also want to give a huge thank you to Dave Hughes, our Director of Communication, for all of his help, and to Melissa Ossie, our CEO. So thank you so much for all your support. And it was just our pleasure today to be with you. Thank you so much for sharing all this information. And we're looking forward to the IFS conference in the spring. Thank you all. Bye.